This is the Savage Nation. I wake up today, and the first story that I saw that I said I have to talk about is that the United States under Donald Trump is removing restrictions on importing African elephant trophies from Zimbabwe and Zambia. Now, that will open the door to Americans going over there to hunt endangered big game. I am sickened by this, and I have written an article that is respectful, Mr. President. It is entitled, Mr. President, You're Just Plain Wrong. And I want him to reverse this. Whoever ever lobbied for this must be overturned. And I'm going to talk about that later, but of course I have to talk about Franken and Stallone. You heard about Franken. Senator was caught in the act. He's a sitting senator. He's not running for anything. He's there. The woman who claims he did it has a picture of him on an airplane. She's asleep on a military transport coming back from a USO tour. She's asleep and he's grabbing her breasts. Sexual assault. He should be taken out of Congress and arrested right now. You do know that that's sexual assault, don't you? The next step is necrophilia. She said he groped me without my consent while I was asleep. Aggressively stuck his tongue in my mouth. I mean, the thought of it alone is enough to make me throw up my breakfast. Now, this is a huge story. And you're going to say, well, wait a minute. Hold on. Slow down, Savage. Wait a minute. You tweeted, you've said over and over again. Didn't you say this, Savage? Didn't you say over and over again, innocent until proven guilty? What kind of conservative convicts without a trial? Well, many of them in the media have convicted more without a trial. There was no evidence whatsoever other than a lousy, stinking, lying lawyer who belongs in prison, in my estimation. Okay, where's the evidence on the Moore thing? When I see the evidence, then I can say what I think. Right now, he's innocent until proven guilty. But when you wake up and you see a picture, which you could see anywhere, I mean, I saw it on the Drudge Report where I go every morning. It's no secret. That's where I go every morning. There's Franken groping a woman asleep on a military transport. She's fast asleep. There he is looking like a deviant pervert, smirking as he touches her breasts. Why is he not in handcuffs today? Why are the federal marshals not going and arresting Al Franken for sexual assault? There seems to be no statute of limitations. Really? I mean, you see something. So what's the difference, you say to me, between Moore and Franken? I'll tell you the difference because I have a very logical mind. Okay? We seem to be doing our trials in the public square instead of giving the accused their day in court like we used to do in America. So can we please examine the cases put before us today? Roy Moore has been accused of the sexual assault of a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old and having relationships with other mall teenagers. But what has been presented as evidence in the Roy Moore case? Nothing, other than the testimony of the women accusing him. Shouldn't we examine some more evidence before we claim Moore guilty? If we find clear and convincing evidence Moore did this to young girls, well, okay, he should pay the penalty. But do we have that yet? No, we do not. And yet everyone, including Sean Hannity, jumped on the bandwagon and seemed to have declared him guilty and called him to step down from his candidacy. That's conservative to you? Now Al Franken, accused of sexual misconduct of a woman while on a USO tour. She told her story. But in addition, we see a picture of Franken groping the sleeping woman on a plane with a big grin on his face. He says he was just joking. But clearly he was taking advantage of a sleeping woman. We actually see it. Silence from the Democrats. We have seen a call from Chuck Schumer for an investigation. Way to go, Chuck. And now the latest in this round of j'accuse is Sylvester Stallone. He's now 71 years old, and he's being accused of the sexual assault of a 16-year-old while filming a movie in Las Vegas in the 1980s. Another one bites the dust in Hollywood. The question is, where does this end? Who will be next? Will it be you? Who will be left? Who will be next? Everyone is a target, except radical feminists. Have you noticed that? Can you put two and two together yet? Who was behind it all? Have you seen one radical feminist accused of molesting a girl yet? Where does this end? J'accuse was what was done during the French Revolution, and the mob's bray cut the head off. God helps us as to where that leads. So I will be talking today about sexual assault and the killing of elephants. I will appeal to the president to reverse the ban on the importation of elephant trophies. This is sickening. It's a sickening, heartbreaking story. And I have told you over and over again, the worst thing that so-called Republicans or so-called conservatives can do, the worst thing they can do, is fulfill the stereotype that the left has of them. By reversing the ban on the importation of elephant trophies, the Trump administration is confirming the worst image imaginable of so-called conservatives. They hate animals, they destroy the earth, etc. You get the picture? Donald Trump may not even know this was done. I don't know when this was done. But I know that this Obama-era ban on hunters importing trophies of elephants killed in Zambia and Zimbabwe was just overturned. And this change will be posted in the Federal Register this Friday with more specifics on what new information justifies the changes, according to ABC News. My friends, we cannot permit this. This is a venal pay-to-play. Wayne Pacelle, president and chief executive of the Humane Society, told the Washington Post, he said, it is a venal and nefarious pay-to-slay arrangement that Zimbabwe has set up with the trophy hunting industry. Now, Zimbabwe is a criminal gangster state run by Mugabe, a mass murderer. In addition to murdering his own people and stealing the land from the farmers when he took it over, used to be called Rhodesia, he said he would help the blacks of Zimbabwe. Need I remind you what happened? When whites were farmers in Zimbabwe, they were exporting food to the world. When Mugabe, the mass murderer, took over Zimbabwe, ex-Rhodesia, and turned the land over to his native peoples, what happened? They couldn't farm the land properly. They became a basket case, and they've been begging for food on the world stage ever since. So now that they've destroyed themselves, they want to destroy their elephants. What kind of message does it send, Donald Trump, to the world that you would reverse a thing like this? I have given time and money to the elephant projects for years. And to me, this is far more important than groping, to be honest with you. This is sickening. It turns my stomach. And remember what I'm saying to you, Mr. President, it's in your hands. You have the power to reverse this. You can send a lesson to those working for you that you will not tolerate the destruction and the killing of innocent animals. Remember what I said to you, Mr. President. You have the power. This does not justify the hunting and killing of them. Remember, Mr. President, we are the elephant. I am the elephant. You are the elephant. And when we lose our compassion for the world's most noble creatures, who is next? Will we start culling the human herd, saying there's overpopulation as well? Many believe we are doing that just now. We are desensitizing ourselves to the taking of life, whether it's through the abortion of the unborn in this country or the mass killing of beautiful animals in Asia and Africa. See, Mr. President, insensitivity leads to brutality. We need to get back to a respect for life. And this lesson of respect for life, Mr. President, goes all the way back to the beginning of the Bible in Genesis. I wrote about it in a chapter entitled Dominion Over Animals. If you bought the book, God, Faith, and Reason, I invite you to go to that chapter and read what I tell you dominion over animals actually means. It doesn't mean kill the elephants and bring their ivory to China. Trust me, the Bible doesn't mean go and destroy the earth. It doesn't mean sack the earth. It doesn't mean kill the elephants. It doesn't mean kill the rhinos. It does not mean destroy everything because you're a man. And so I am not alone on this. I know that many of you agree with me. And although we have dominion over many things that we don't necessarily consume to the point of destroying them, listen to me. There comes a time in human evolution when we must evolve in our observations about not only ourselves or the earth or the cosmos, but about animals too. They're not all there for our pleasure or just to kill and eat them. That's not what having dominion means. Even Republicans have to grow up. Even big laughing, oh, ho, 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 I have a Gulfstream and I fly over and I eat animals, oh, ho, ho, ho. The 80s are over. Get over it. Grow up. Grow up and evolve, for God's sakes. You've become a stereotype of the ugly American. You know what conservation is? It's the opposite of environmentalism. Conservation is a core conservative political principle that modern conservatives should reclaim. Well, I have news for you. It's a core spiritual concept as well, which is directly related to the passage in Genesis about having dominion over the earth and its living inhabitants. That's all in, it's in God, faith, and reason. What do you want me to do, hide it? Just because I was ahead of the curve on all these stories, I should hide it now. I should be ashamed of what I wrote. I should be ashamed of my insights. No, I will not be. What is worse than killing elephants? Tell me. Is groping a woman worse than killing elephants? Or is groping women worse than killing elephants? That's an interesting moral question. Maybe it'll shock you into thinking about both topics. I'm also going to talk about this. Who is gelding the military? Oh, yeah, the gelding of the military. What is gelding? What do we mean by gelding? Well, the definition of gelding is castration as well as the elimination of hormonally driven behavior associated with a stallion allows a male horse to be calmer and better behaved, making the animal quieter, gentler, and potentially more suitable as an everyday working animal. It's right out of Animal Farm. The males in America are being gelded by the psychiatric profession. The boys in America are being gelded by the school moms. The boys in America are being gelded at every turn in America. Oh, God, step down and save this country from itself before there's not a man left on earth. And when the men go, who will defend the women? Think about it and get back to me. The phone number is 855-400-SAVAGE. Go ahead, you big brave hunters. Go kill an elephant, you friggin' cowards, you. Bunch of cowards and bums. I wish one of them tramples you to death the next time you go kill one of those noble creatures. They should crush you under their foot. Al Franken sex accusations, kissed and groped, not funny. Okay, so let's focus on the benign story of Al Franken. There he is. The world sees the picture of him touching a woman while she's sleeping on the breasts with a big smirk, looking like the deranged fool he's always been. Only in America could a low-grade comedian become a senator, but in this case, his intelligence level is higher than that of Mitch McConnell in either case. At least he was funny at some point by making a mockery of himself. McConnell has not yet put on a turkey outfit. Maybe he should do so for Thanksgiving. Just let the gullet hang down and go peck around there. To me, this is sexual assault. And there's evidence. With more, it's accusation, no evidence. Fake yearbook. Now, the Stallone thing is a little more troubling. And when I was reading the Stallone accusations, it's interesting to me. Sylvester Stallone, accused of sexually assaulting 16-year-old fan in the 80s, claim made her give him and his bodyguard some sexual favors. She says he threatened to beat her head in if she told. That's all in the police report, the Las Vegas police report. And I've met Stallone a few times up in Hollywood. I think he's a sweet guy. I don't know if he did this. Police report said he did. But as I was reading the story, I was stunned to see that the bodyguard he used, Mike DeLuca, was an ex-boxer. I read that his bodyguard was killed by police in 2013 at a traffic stop. And being someone who was raised in searching things out, I said, wait a minute, what do you mean he was killed by police? Stallone bodyguard was killed by police. He had no gun. All lives matter is what I wrote. Checked it out, Ventura County Star, September 20th, 2013. I went digging for you. See, my job is to not just report the headlines, but to dig. I'm obsessed with finding the stuff behind the stuff. So Stallone's bodyguard, just as a side note, was shot by police after they had tasered him, which was ineffective. No handgun was found at the scene, said Police Chief Robert Gager. DeLuca, the bodyguard, had no criminal record in Ventura County. There were no witnesses to this. Apparently, he was in his car. He crashed into a palm tree. The police came. They said he threatened them. He had no gun. and they killed him. So, you know, when you hear Black Lives Matter, I think they ought to broaden their concept to all lives matter. And the assassination by anyone by police is troubling in a society such as ours. But that's a side story. I understand it's only a side story. Big story Moore. Big story Franken. Right now, the biggest story is Stallone. I don't know where that one's going to go. I don't know where this ends. What year does it end in? 1961, 1951? Should they disinter some actors? Maybe they should disinter Clark Gable and have a group of mean-faced, clipped-haired women try him and then burn his body like they did during the Inquisition. They could pulverize Clark Gable's bones, or they could dig up Bob Hope. And mean-faced, clipped-haired women could try Bob Hope for sex crimes allegedly committed. And then when he is found guilty, they can burn his corpse and they could powder his bones. Couldn't they? Isn't that what was done during the Inquisition? We are living through a new Inquisition. Where does it end? Round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. Keep feasting, my delightful friends. Keep feasting. Enjoy the flesh. The song is dedicated to Judge Moore. I was thinking about Judge Moore, and I was, you know, if he converted to a certain religion, he could get a cultural religious pass. If he converted to a certain religion retroactively and moved to Seattle, he's home free. That's it. Then the libs would embrace him. But now we have the serious issue with real evidence of Franken groping a sleeping woman. This is not funny. You do that to a woman sleeping on a bus, you go to jail. You have your head broken and you go right to jail. Am I wrong? Okay, a woman's asleep on a bus, New York City, subway. And you big pervert with your big glasses, you go over and you touch her while she's sleeping. The guys in the subway car probably pummel you, number one, but number two, you're going to jail. I want to know why federal marshals have not gone in and arrested Al Franken and tried him for the sex accusation of kissing and groping this woman. That's what I want to know. Are you telling me that if it was a Republican, this guy wouldn't be in the slammer already with the cuffs on? Let's hear what you have to say. Let's take your the temperature on you. I mean, it is unbelievable what's going on. Who's next? I'm asking you, where does this end? Remember when they went after Bill Cosby? That went on for years and years and years. When they came for Bill Cosby, you didn't speak out because you're not a black comedian. And then when they came for, I don't know the next one, I can't even keep up with it. Who was the next big one to go? I forget already. There was when they came for, wait a minute, when they came for Bill Cosby, you didn't speak out because you weren't a black comedian. Then they went after Harvey Weinstein, who's been forgotten already. He's like in prehistoric history. When they came for Harvey Weinstein, you didn't raise your voice because you're not a Jewish filmmaker, producer. You didn't say anything. When they came for Judge Moore, you didn't raise your voice because he's just a Christian conservative, and you're not a Christian conservative. When they came for Sylvester Stallone, you didn't raise your voice because you're not a rich Hollywood actor. When they came for Al Franken, you didn't raise your voice because you're not whatever, I can't even, ex-comedian, senator, whatever. And when they came for you, who was left? Who will be left? I mean, where does this end? What's the statute of limitations? The grave? No. Bush, 92 years old, they got him a month ago. His arm fell down on someone's leg. The guy has Parkinson's. He's in a wheelchair. He also. No end to this. You don't know where this is coming from. You can't figure it out yet. You can't put two and two together. Which community in America is behind all of these accusations? You don't see who in the media is most salivating over these accusations against men. You haven't put two and two together yet? Oh, you haven't? Oh, yeah, you can't put two and two together yet. Mary on KBET line 4. What a day, huh? What a day in America. Go ahead, please.
My take on the whole thing is this is a big plan to take down the judge because they so desperately don't want him.
Well, I disagree with you because the judge is not elected. Franken is already a sitting senator, so your argument doesn't hold water. I'm sorry.
But they're not going to do anything to him. But the fact that they have pulled out all these other people over the last few months, which they knew about for years, so now they put it into effect because now...
Yeah, but it seems that the Judge Moore accusations have come to a grinding halt. once his lawyer fought back and said the signature was forged in that yearbook, the date was forged, produced his real signature, and that wonderful slime of humanity, lawyer of hers, suddenly dummied up and said we're not going to do it until a long time from now. I don't think that that's going to go where they want it to go.
Well, I don't think it is either because he's fighting back.
Well, Franken's liable to fight back. No. You know that Franken isn't. You know what Franken said? Franken didn't fight back. He admitted it. He said he was a crud. He said he wants to be investigated. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah. He came out, tried to get in front of it. You know how liberals are. They're very smart. He said, yeah, I'm ashamed for what I did. I would like to be investigated. That's not going to help him. That's like committing a crime and saying, now investigate me. I'm sorry. The handcuffs are waiting, Al. Now, Al Franken, if he was smart, would step down. He will pull the entire Democrat Party down with him. But while we're at it, let me give you a copy of God, Faith, and Reason, which I can't talk about right now. I will. It's doing great, by the way, for those of you who hate me and wish that I would fail. I'm sorry to tell you it's going to be another bestseller. I am sorry to tell you that by this Sunday, the first week of its publication, where the first week's tallies are conducted by this Sunday, it will be in the top 10. Number one, it can't be because it's running up against every big book in the world. But the sales of this book right now are directly on par with that of Trump's War, which was number one on the New York Times list. Just know that in case you hate me. Sorry to disappoint you. Okay, but having said that, let's go back to what we're talking about here, which is Franken versus Moore. Moore is an allegation. No proof, no evidence. Just people saying he did it. I don't know whether he did it. Franken, picture, clear as a bell. You haven't seen the picture yet? You're not going to see it on Wolfie Show. Have they shown it on CNN yet, Robert, Jim? No, they're hiding the picture. Here in the San Francisco area, the land of complete lies, propaganda, no picture. No picture of Al Franken touching the woman's breasts while she's sleeping. I thought they were great feminists here in San Francisco. Right. 855-400-7282. KLIF, Dallas, Texas, Clifton on line one. What's your opinion?
Howdy. This whole thing, you mentioned the Spanish Inquisition segment ago, and to me it seems more like Salem witch trials, very related. But I think that Al Franken, if you look at how witch trials go, how these sort of hysterias go, the person who comes out ahead and he says, yes, I'm guilty, whether he is or not, but who says, yes, I did it, and I want to be forgiven, I was wrong, I want to learn from this, that's Al Franken, and I think he's going to come out ahead.
No, I'm sorry. That does not excuse a crime. It's like a man coming out and say, yes, I broke into that jewelry store in 1981, and I'm sorry. You're arrested for breaking into the jewelry store.
I don't...
He's admitting a crime. He's stupid. He went to a standard liberal publicist who said, okay, Al, get out in front of it. Tell him you're sorry. Tell him you're going to seek therapy. It doesn't work. This does not work. Franken's toast. My prediction is Franken's out of the Senate.
I agree that he's guilty and should face repercussions. But historically, it's shown that the people who do pretty much what Franken is doing tend to come out ahead. No, I don't.
Who's going to give him a pass on saying he did it and he's sorry? Tell me. Other than Anderson Blooper. Who's going to give him a pass? Andy Blooper?
I can't say to any official person, but maybe society as a whole. And
what, you think they're going to forgive him for groping a sleeping woman?
I think what they'll do is say, here's an example of a man who was bad. He's recognized how bad he was, and he's going to make himself better, and we should lead by his example.
Yeah, well, let me read you something from Exodus that I quoted on page 93 of God, Faith, and Reason, which I'm going to send you. You ready for my quote that might work here? By the way, is there anyone listening to the show who can find a biblical quote that works for the times we're living in? Here's one. But if any harm follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. Does that sort of apply? Well, it wouldn't apply. That would mean that a woman can grope Al Franken, and I don't think there's a more disgusting concept than that. Is there a woman listening to the show who would want to grope Al Franken? All right, stay on the line, my good listener. You're getting a copy. as the millions who tune into the Savage Nation radio show, who get my voice for free, and the hundreds of thousands who are getting the book, unfortunately, not for free. And I'm still looking to give all the profits from this book away, too. I can't find it. Any facility in America that treats the developmentally disabled that is underfunded, really underfunded, because we're living in an age of socialized medicine where all these groups are so overfunded, they don't know what to do with the money, as so far as I can tell. Well, this is horrible what's going on. This is just horrible what's going on in this country right now. Clifton on KLIF in Dallas said we're going through the Salem witch trials. I said we're going through the Inquisition. During the Inquisition, they tried people for being anti-Catholic, anti-God. And, of course, they found them guilty. Anyone who was tried was guilty. And then they burned them at the stake. And then if they really were angry at someone, they dug him up from the grave and they pulverized his bones. This is what the U.S. media is now doing. Mainly, in this case, it's mainly, am I wrong? Is it mainly the white males, or am I missing something here? Robert, is it all white males so far? No, is there I need to know, like, as an epidemiologist, you got to break it down by category. I'm trying to do phylum, genus, phylum, species. Have any people of color been accused of any of this? Have any Muslims been accused of this? No, it's interesting. Christians, Jews, atheists, liberals, conservatives, but they have something in common. So far, it's not over yet. Well, it did start with poor old the comedian. Come on, it started with the African American comedian. I forget his name on it. I'm blanking on it. I just can't remember his name. Cosby. Remember, that went on for years, but he fought back. So they're trying to cull the herd. The powerful, very powerful secret hand that controls the media, the secret hands that control the media, they're trying to cull the herd. Who's going to be next to go in Hollywood? That's what I'd like to know. How do you can start mentioning names? Don't call me and say you know. You could pretty much guess. I imagine they're all scared to death right now. Right? I mean, everyone in Hollywood, and many of them listen to me on the stream because I'm not on in L.A., unfortunately, for reasons no one in the world can understand. There's a major station in Los Angeles that a signal from Mexico with music that leaks over the border has a bigger signal, and for some reason I'm not on in L.A., but I have a huge audience on the stream. I was just down there. Wherever I went, waiters, busboys, actors, actresses, they love the show. Who amongst them now does not feel frightened? Who's going to be next? You know what's interesting? When this all started with, what's his name, Harvey Weinstein. Remember that was covering the headlines for a while? Remember I said I feel bad for Harvey? Do you remember that? It was weird. Now, Harvey's the antithesis of me politically. But I said the guy looked sick to me. I mean, he looked like a sicko, like actually a sick boy who got very powerful and then projected his sickness onto women. Not justification. I had compassion for him because I have the same compassion for him as I do for an elephant. I am a man with compassion. So the question is, where is the compassion in America? Why have we become such a hateful country? What a hateful society. What's going to be around the Thanksgiving table next week? You're going to talk about this now all week? Al Franken, Sylvester Stallone. This is going to be the topic now? And when Christmas comes, this is what people are going to talk about? From St. Nick to St. Sick in one generation? This is the Savage Nation, man. Oh, wow. Wow. Well, I got to tell you this. I want to talk about something to do with everyone's car. Sooner or later, your car is going to break down. You know it's a fact if you have a used car or truck. And if you're lucky, it's going to happen while you're still under the manufacturer's warranty and the repairs are covered. But what if it breaks down after the warranty expires? You could be out of pocket thousands to get it fixed. That's why I recommend getting extended coverage like anyone with a brain does from CarShield.com. CarShield makes the whole process easy. You select your favorite mechanic. You can even go to the dealership to do the work. No checks in the mail. CarShield pays the mechanic directly. CarShield's administrators even give you the VIP treatment, providing 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is in the shop, so you're not left stranded in the cold. Listen carefully. If your car is 3 to 12 years old, that's the limit. It doesn't mean you have to pay high repair bills. CarShield administrators paid out close to $2 billion in claims, and they're ready to help you. That's a big number. They're real. Save yourself thousands in potential car repairs. I want you to get covered by the ultimate and extended vehicle service protection before it's too late. Simply call 800-CAR-6100 and mention code SAVAGE. Or go to carshield.com, code SAVAGE. You're going to save 10%. It's a good deal. That's carshield.com, code SAVAGE. A deductible may apply. I'll be right back.
I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Well, that's an old story. When is that going to come back up? Is there a statute of limitations? Absolutely not. Happened in the 90s. So where do you want this to end? Who's behind all of this? Who's pushing this? Who's behind all of this? I did not have sexual relation with that woman. Okay, Bill, we went through that. Let's see, you were judged in the court of public opinion, and all of the liberal women said, oh, come on now. It's just his shenanigans. I remember. I can name the names of all of the women who are now screaming. One of them is a congresswoman now in San Francisco, old Zoe Lofgren. Is she still around? Oh, Jackie Spear. She still remembers being kissed 500 years ago. What a kiss that must have been. These women can't forget that one kiss, man. I can't understand that one. So anyway, where do the statute of limitations end? Who's next? Well, maybe Bill Clinton should be called up again. Of course not. He shouldn't. I think he was impeached as a result of this, sort of. It led to it anyway. So what kind of country are we living in now? Well, God has an answer for that one as well. On page 75 of my best-selling book, God, Faith, and Reason. Little shorty, it won't hurt. Take the medicine. Doc's going to give you the medicine, Jeremiah 2. And I brought you into a land of fruitful fields to eat the fruit thereof and the good thereof. But when you entered it, you defiled my land and made my heritage an abomination. Jeremiah was a prophet. So we have turned America into an abomination. And many of you know that. Wherever you turn, there's an abomination in this country. Drugs, sex, pollution, mental pollution. You don't know which way to turn. But the only thing that keeps me from saying it's all over and that God will destroy this nation is only one thing. Look at where the moralists from the Islamic countries come from, and they are so much worse with what they do to women and children. As you say, by comparison, we're not so bad. And that's true. And that's it. That's the whole story. What else are we going to hang on that was so holy, was so great? I'm not a pure man. I'm not a pure man at all. I've told you that 100 times. I'm not holding myself up as some holy roller, better than anyone else. I'm a fallen angel. I get migraines, you name it. But at least I know where the green lights are. I know where the green fields are. I know where the green pastures are. And I also know what's right and what's wrong. And what I'm hoping to do with God, Faith, and Reason is to lead you back to yourself and your sanity.
We rehearsed the line, and the line leading up to the kiss, we rehearsed the line, and I'm coming towards him, and he comes up and he grabs me, and he puts his hand behind my head, and he aggressively comes in, and he mashes his mouth up against mine, and he sticks his tongue in my mouth. And as it happens so fast, and he puts his tongue in my mouth, and his mouth is just wet and slimy, and to this day I call him fish lips. I told him, you ever do that to me again, you're going to get punched in the face or kneed in the you-know-what.
Yeah, what a world. So that's a woman who says Franken did the tongue, this and that. Well, the picture's there. This is no longer an accusation. The tonguing part, we don't know. The touching part, we do know. The picture's on the Drudge Report if you can't find it anywhere else. I invite all of you good people from San Francisco, where you get, let us say, 1% of the news that the newspaper permits you to see. There's your boy, Al Franken, touching a sleeping woman on her breasts. What would you say about that? Where are all the radical feminists from Berkeley today when we don't need them? Answer, nowhere, because we don't need them. Now, what about Alabama? Well, there's something to be said about Alabama and Roy Moore as well. Here is Darrell Nelson, the stepson of the accuser against Roy Moore. The stepson says she's lying. Listen to 09. Listen carefully.
Mr. Moore, I support you. I don't believe the acts that she claims you've done. I don't believe it. I've known the woman. She married my father many, many years ago. I've known her for a while now. And I truly do not believe that she's being honest about this.
Okay, now go to number 10. Now remember, this is the stepson of the one with the QVC jewelry, who Gloria Allred wheeled out from Alabama against Roy Moore. They bought the jewelry on QVC. They spent a good $9, $10 there on that investment. They fished a $50 bill through the trailer park, and there she was. Now listen to number 10.
You, Mr. Moore, your wife, I do apologize. For whatever reason she's doing this, I am truly sorry. You're a good man, and I believe that you're what Alabama needs to move forward. I stand behind you 100%. And to my stepmother, whatever reasons you did this, I have a few questions on this. Why did you wait so long if this did happen? You said you were a teenager when it happened. But here it is now, how many years later? And all of a sudden now you're going to bring it up when he's fixing to go. We done voted him into the house and trying to get him took out. I'm not going to have it.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Now, one more piece. I know you don't want to hear it, but here's Darrell Nelson, stepson of the Roy Moore lady with QVC earrings accuser in number 11.
I know I'm going to get some backlash from my family. But that's okay. My loyalty is to my father, not his wife. I'm blood related to him, but I'm not related to her. And so for whatever reason she's done what she's done, but I'm not gonna let her get away with this one. Her manipulating and lies and bullshit. It's done today. That's done. But she's wrong for this. And like I said, I don't believe a word she said.
I always like Southern guys. I mean, they're stand-up guys. They're generally very real. They are. You know, that's all I can say. Now, here's Alabama pastor ripping the Republicans for abandoning Roy Moore. I would go a step further. I'd like to rip the conservative talk show hosts who have convicted him, tried him, and burned him at the stake without any pure evidence. If this doesn't become a defining moment for those of you who are avid listeners of talk radio, where you can't understand the difference between true conservatism and false conservatism, if you really want to, does it really matter? The whole thing of conservative, who's not a conservative, I could care less. I don't even like the term conservative. I never did. In fact, when Nixon became president, when people started to say, I'm a conservative, my skin crawled. I didn't like the word because I knew it was false. What does it really mean? There are people who make a living off that word. To me, it means what I say it means, which is borders, language, and culture. And so, therefore, here's an Alabama pastor who talks about, I would say, conservative values, which I would consider to be having character and standing by your friends. That to me is a number one character that I would like, a character trait. That's how I was raised. Stand behind your friends when they're in trouble. That's the mark of a man. Anyone can stab anyone in the back at any time. So here you got the whole media stabbing Moore in the back, including some big pancake guys on television. Here is a pastor ripping Republicans for abandoning Roy Moore in clip 08.
I don't desert my friends just on mere accusations. I require evidence. It's funny how the Republican Party is. What a bunch of sissies. The Democrats rally around their candidates even when they're guilty.
There you go.
Republicans want to throw them under the bus on a mere accusation without knowing whether they're guilty or not. I think that's awfully bad.
It's more than bad. It's much worse than bad. It's a defining moment in American media history. And as I put up on my Facebook account, innocent until proven guilty, what kind of conservative convicts without a trial? And all of a sudden, who is to me the worst woman in the history of America, comes up with a drawing of this woman. A drawing, but there's no evidence. And the Roy Moore campaign said to her, Gloria Allred, release the evidence to determine whether there is fraud. And Gloria Allred dummied up and backed up. She had to return the jewelry. That must have been the $9.95 she had to get back. The nice necklace of false pearls, false earrings they got her. I don't know what the makeup must have cost. I mean, the mascara alone could have been $19. They made her up. They gave her the eyebrows, the mascara, the lipstick. There's probably $30 right there. Then you throw in the QVC jewelry, another $9. So the Allred law firm must have invested $39 in gussing her up. You know, lipstick on a pig type thing. And now she wants the money back because I think this case is not going to fly. They say pigs don't fly, but I don't know. In this case, we don't know yet. It's not over. There is still Andy Cooper salivating in the background to keep it alive. And then there's Wolfie. Wolfie the Blitzer. What a disappointment to humanity he is to his mother, I can guarantee you. Okay, so now we go back. Should we talk about Trump getting a drink of water? What was that a big deal about? I don't know why they made a big deal. Because when what was his name? The guy from, what was his name? When he needed a drink of water and he threw a bottle at him? Rubio. During the campaign, Rubio took a sip of water and Donald threw a bottle at him like he was a baby. I don't know. I like the old Donald. I want the old Donald back. What happened to the old Donald? The wild, crazy Donald, the unpredictable Donald. He's too predictable now. The teleprompter, the drinking water now, subdued, dim sum. I don't know if it really matters. So we're living in a crazy world. We know that. How do you survive in a crazy world? With all these accusations flying around, Thanksgiving coming up, Black Friday coming up, Cyber Monday coming up. I mean, we got shopping to do, man. That's our country. That's the value. That's it. Shopping. You know, that's our country. Without shopping, this country's just dead in the water. That's what a capitalist society is, right? Wrong. It's the same in every country on earth. I spent many a year collecting plants in really odd places in the world, very remote islands. And let me tell you what happens in New Guinea. They're not a capitalist society. They're a tribal society. In that sense, you could say they're pure communists in the highlands of New Guinea. What they do is they raise pigs all year long. They don't eat them, by and large. They eat very few pigs. And then they get hundreds and hundreds of pigs in the village. And in one day, they slaughter them all. And then they have a huge feast for day on end. People just eating till the fat's coming out of their nostrils. Why? Same as us shopping. That's all. That's the whole story. So what does that have to do with anything? Whatever you want to make of it. Moore and Franken, what's the difference? We talked about that. Mr. President, you're just plain wrong, which is removing the restrictions on importing African elephant trophies from Zimbabwe and Zambia. And this lesson of respect for life that I have goes back all the way to the beginning of the Bible in Genesis, as I've said to you. I wrote about it in a chapter called Dominion. Please go to God, Faith, and Reason and look at that chapter. I would read it to you, but I know you'll get bored and switch the dial. And the worst thing you could do is now switch to Wallbanger. It's terrible if I were to let that happen. If I were to drive you to Wallbanger, I can't do it. But what do I mean by dominion over animals? Many of you read the Bible and you think it's a literal document. And so Genesis says, God told Adam and Eve the following: be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that creepeth upon the earth. Now, to those in talk radio, that means laughing at everybody on the planet who has no money, mocking everybody on the planet who has no money, making believe that they're one of those people who have no money, while laughing all the way to the Swiss bank. But I'm really not that person. I'm a wealthy man, but I don't lead a wealthy life. The fact of the matter is, I've kept my roots and my origins really strongly in my mind. But there are things in the Bible I don't agree with. Does it make me an anti-God, anti-religious person? I would say that people must evolve past this original message. I mean, we don't kill adulterers anymore, do we? Thank God we don't kill homosexuals, not unless you're a retrograde, throwback Islamist. There are many things in the Bible that must be taken in the context of the times, and one of them is the passage I quoted above. What does have dominion really mean? Does it mean you should slaughter animals mercilessly and eat them? I don't think so. In fact, I interpret having dominion to mean protecting them. Protecting them. And I know I'm not alone because I talk to many of you every day of all belief systems, political, spiritual. I particularly remember a caller who shared my interpretation of dominion, and she thanked me for sharing and said, I think when you love God, you love all of his creatures and his creations. And I'm so glad that you talked about this today. That's all to be found in my document, God, Faith, and Reason. It's an important book in many areas. We have dominion over many things, I write, that we don't necessarily consume to the point of destroying them. What do you think crop rotation is for? What about your car? You don't drive it as fast as it goes or beat it up by taking curbs fast or peeling out when the light turns green. Not every day. That's not just because you might just get a ticket. It's also because you need that car to last a long time. And so you forego the pleasure of pushing it to its limit every time you drive it, so it will be there for you next year and the year after. That's called conservation. And that's why I say to you, friends, conservation is a core conservative principle that modern conservatives should reclaim. Well, I have news for you. It's a core spiritual concept as well, which is directly related to the passage in Genesis about having dominion over the earth and its living inhabitants. And I'm sorry, but slaughtering elephants is not dominion over animals. It's disgusting. It's cowardly. And we are all brothers and sisters on this planet. And that includes the eagle. That includes the elephant. Conservation is not the issue that should be controlled by the so-called radical left. We should control the issue. But when you see that Donald Trump's administration has reversed restrictions on importing African elephant trophies from Zimbabwe and Zambia, I am sorry, but millions of middle-of-the-roaders, millions of the so-called independents are going to abandon him and the Republican Party as sure as I am sitting here. Being a conservationist is truly the way to follow God's command in Genesis to exercise dominion over all living things. That is what I think. Did you hear what I just said? Now, one last note on this dominion thing, which again is in God, Faith, and Reason, if you want to read it for yourself. That means that we must eat plants and animals to survive, but we don't have to destroy whole species just because we can. It is in our best interest to conserve them for the future. That is the true meaning of exercising dominion, to ensure that all living things have the opportunity to flourish, which will allow human beings to benefit from them in the future. In doing so, we enable them to live the best life they possibly can in a world in which living things must consume other living things to survive. And we must not make them suffer when they are slaughtered. That, by the way, is the origin of the kosher food laws, to teach man, among other things, to be compassionate to animals in the earth. I don't know if you know that. I don't know how many Jews even know that the purpose of the kosher food laws is not strictly to ban pork or to ban shrimp or to not mix milk and meat. One of the chief ethical values of the kosher food laws is how to slaughter animals humanely. And that was to take away the bloodlust of the ancient Israelites. Did you know any of this? I've learned many things along this long, rocky road, and I try to give them to you as I can. Well, it's almost time to take a quick break. I have to take a break. I invite you to call. Phone number is 855-407-28. We're talking about, oh, my God, what are we talking about? Elephants, what else? Ellie the elephant. Teddy has a toy elephant, Ellie the elephant. Now we're talking about Stallone. Now we're talking about Franken. Suddenly more is yesterday's news. Who is tomorrow's news? Who's next? Which big lib is going to go next? Back in a minute.
I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
All right, well, you got to believe him. You got to believe him. Believe him, but don't believe Roy Moore. Believe him, and don't believe anyone else. Just believe Bill Clinton. I remember the Margaret Carlson of, I think, Time magazine at the time. She got up on TV. I just remember her with those little glasses. All of the women covered for him. Not one Democrat woman said one word about Clinton. Now they're all screaming and yelling. They got out the rolling pins and the hair dryers. Screaming and yelling for everyone's head except Al Franken. They've already turned it around. Today they've already used their best tactics to minimize what Al Franken did. Not allegedly did, but did. Not allegedly, but did grope a woman while she slept. That to me is sexual assault. The picture of Franken with his disgusting, ugly hands touching a woman's breasts while she is asleep on a cargo plane coming back from a USO tour, to me, is assault. It's not a fake picture. He even said it's real. He's not saying it was photoshopped. It's one thing to accuse someone. It's another thing to use photo evidence to prove something. It's groping. It's groping. It's a sexual assault. Is there a person out there who's into sexual assault? And I don't mean into a legal person in a city or state. Can you tell me if touching a sleeping woman while she's sleeping like that is not sexual assault, or am I mistaken? And what is the statute of limitations of doing that? Tell me.
During the show, I was kind of the co-host with a beautiful woman named Leanne Tweeden. And we do comedy routines, and we'd introduce the music, we'd introduce the cheerleaders. I'd go out and do a monologue. And this is something I would do, I'd done for a number of years.
All right, so Franken trumps Moore. Where's it going to lead to? Where does it go? Round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. Who's next? You? Who's next? Who's behind all of this witch hunt, this inquisition? I don't have an answer for you. I have a suspicion I know who's behind it all. I know why they're targeting certain people. Certainly it's clear in Moore's case why they dragged the $50 bill through trailer parks. But it's odd that they bring up this thing on Franken. I don't know who's firing back at the Dems with this one. I didn't think the Republicans had the brains to even do a thing like this. Do you? I didn't think the Republicans had the guts or the brains to come up with something like this one. They shocked me on this. I don't know where they're getting the opposition research from to do a thing like this. Hey, nothing happens by accident. It's all money. It's all power. And there's something behind everything like this. So where do you turn in a time like this? Where do I turn? To the eternal. I was on Newsmax television yesterday, yes. And it was a pretty interesting change of pace for me. Because although I talked about my book, God, Faith, and Reason, which, by the way, I have to tell you, I'm sorry to tell you, if you live in San Francisco and hate me, I ain't going anywhere. In fact, the book is selling really well. The numbers are equal to that of Trump's war after 3 days. Almost to the book. Trump's war, I will remind you, although the mimeograph sheet of Jerry Brown, the San Francisco newspaper, does not cover me. I've had 5 best-selling books in a row after 25 other books. And this one is selling real well. I'm sorry without you. It just shows you how relevant you are. So thank God for news sites like the Drudge Report. But the following interview I want you to hear just for a few minutes. I want you to see why I want you to hear it.
I am very excited to welcome to the show Michael Savage, who's the host, of course, of the nationally syndicated radio program, The Savage Nation. He is a New York Times best-selling author, and he has a brand new book, and it is not, as he promised with his last book, a political book. This book, God, Faith, and Reason. Michael, welcome. Glad to have you on.
What a pleasure to be with you on Newsmax.
Oh, it is great. You know, and I want to start with your book because I love it that you begin this book in the preface with a very simple, direct statement. I never saw God, nor do I pretend to have any special insights. Thank you for that. But it does beg the question, why did you write it?
Because I've been searching for God ever since I've been a little boy, as anyone with a conscience or a mind will do. Some from time to time. With me, it's almost been constant. And the solution is in the book, which is that our God, that is the God of the Christians and the Jews, which is, of course, the one God. We don't worship monuments. We don't worship stones. We don't worship chicken feathers. We don't worship things of that nature. God is invisible and wants us to search for him. And the whole thing here is that the reason he's invisible and we can't see him is because if we saw him, we dismiss him as yesterday's movie or yesterday's newspaper. Oh, yeah, I saw God. He was okay, but what's tomorrow? So I realized it was my Einsteinian moment, which is that, wait a minute, God made himself invisible to us so that we'd be looking for him everywhere all the time.
You know, since I grew up in the Christian faith, and there are a lot of people on the Christian side of the ledger that want to pretend they understand God. And I personally have always found great solace and great comfort in the Judaic tradition of not believing you can understand God, of it being impossible to grasp the concept of God.
I'm sorry, that's how I see it. There's so many conflicts and paradoxes. Why do the good suffer? Why do the evil never get punished? Why the little children suffer in cancer wards, things of that nature? And I came to the conclusion long time ago, which I share with my readers in God, Faith, and Reason, which is that God is omnipresent. I believe he is everywhere. Leaves on a tree, a newborn baby crying, a cloud, a dog, or this or that, an insect. I see God everywhere. I'm a former biologist by training, and the reason is that I wanted to, searching for these things. But that's it. That's the whole point. But God is omnipresent in his creation, but we have free will. He's not omnipotent. He doesn't control us. And if I believe God was omnipotent and controlled everything, then I'd have to believe God is evil for hurting so many innocent people. So I don't believe he's omnipotent. I believe he's omnipresent. And he set the thing up, and that's it. The rest is sort of chance, free will, and maybe there's intervention from time to time here and there with miracles, with angels, if you want to believe that. And I can get into that because I believe that there's sometimes an angel here and there. I remember there was a biography 30 years ago written by the middleweight fighter Rocky Graziano, and he wrote a book called Somebody Up There Likes Me. It was a very beautiful title written by a man who was not, educated in a college. Right. And I think that said it all. It's called faith. He believed that someone up there liked him because he pulled him out of the slums, out of crime, out of destitution, and turned him into a world champion. And I think that there is something to be said for that, don't you?
Oh, no, I totally do. And in fact, it is interesting. One of the constants when you talk to people who are tremendously successful in whatever career endeavor that they're in, one of the things they will always say at some point or another, and I'm sure you found this to be true, is they don't feel like it really comes down to them. They feel as if they've been a channel, or there's something else going on that they don't understand. And so I relate to it that way.
Your vehicle, right. In other words, I had a dream the other night, something to do with a cancer cure. I used to be in science. Out of nowhere, I didn't read it, I didn't see it, I didn't watch it on TV. It was about helium. The words came to me. I was in front of a lecture hall with chemical symbols and mathematical symbols, small seminar, and I wrote on the board that helium disassociates the cancer membrane. I don't know where it came from. So I woke up and I looked up helium and anti-cancer research. It turns out there's a whole thread of thought on, using helium to treat cancer. The point is, where do our ideas come from? Where do our ideas come from? Say, they just come. Where? I get them through dreams. I get them through memories. I get them through reflections. I get them through insights. I get them through playing with a dog. I get them through looking at a sunrise. So what is it? What is this inspiration we're talking about? You could say it's God. If you're a cynic and a modernist, you say there is no God. It's just electrical energy. Well, I'm not going to argue with people who only believe it's only electrical energy, and when we die and the electrical energy stops across the brain, we're dead. I don't believe that. I don't have any reason to believe that. So I can't tell people what to believe. As I said in the book, I'm not an evangelist. I'm not trying to have you join a church, convert to anything. It's written for the thinking person who contemplates these issues from time to time.
God, Faith, and Reason. It looks like a really tremendous book, and I will admit I like thoughtful books on God, but it is not a religious book. It is a searching book. That's more of what you're trying to communicate here, isn't it, Michael? It's not. You said, well, you're not trying to push a church. You're trying to push a search, really, more than anything else.
That's nice. Not a church, but a search. You ought to consider a career in media. Very good rhyme. I like the iambic pentameter. Look, the book goes from my searching from being a little boy in the streets of New York, in my own way, not even knowing what I was looking for, to the years I spent in the Fiji Islands, Tonga, searching for medicinal plants. It was only years later that I realized, what the hell was I doing down there? Yeah. What was I doing buying real estate in Upper Manhattan in the 70s, right? Think about that. I had friends saying, buy real estate in Upper Manhattan, buy real estate in Harlem. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. What was I doing? I was searching for some meaning and to give something to the world. So in every plant that I picked that had medicinal properties, there was evidence of some grand design, if you want to put it that way. Hey, I'll bet you don't spend much time thinking about your circulation, but I think you should, really. Why? Good circulation happens to be crucial to energy and stamina. It brings oxygen and nutrients to every aspect of your body, every cell, so you can exercise longer, do more everyday activities, and have a little more fun, you know what I mean? Recover more quickly, too. So what you can do to promote healthy circulation best? Drink Super Beets. Super Beets promotes the body's own natural ability to produce healthier circulation for increased energy and stamina all day long. Oh, only Super Beets is made from beets grown to exacting standards. That's interesting. Well, they then concentrate them into superfood crystals. So if you want to improve your circulation, all you got to do is call 800-481-0504 or go to savagelovesbeets.com. And with your first order, you're going to get a free 30-day supply and indicator strips to see for yourself how the Super Beets product is working for you. And you get free shipping. Simply call 800-481-0504 or go to savagelovesbeets.com today. We're talking about sexual assault, real or imagined. We're talking about the difference between Roy Moore and the Al Franken story, and there is a big difference. Roy Moore has only been accused without evidence. Franken, on the other hand, has admitted that he did that. He admitted he groped a woman while she was sleeping. That, to me, is sexual assault, and I believe he should be arrested immediately and taken off the Senate floor in handcuffs to send a strong signal to the other predators in the Senate and the House that such behavior will not be tolerated. What do you think? Am I right or wrong? 855-400-7282. WCFO in Georgia, Temple on line 1. Go ahead, please. What's on your mind?
Love you, Dr. Savage. Let me say I am not a feminist. I like alpha males. I'm not a liberal. But I'm confused at some of your statements today. And you played the Bill Clinton segment, and I agree with that 1,000%. But before that, you said that, that men are being convicted, tried, and buried at the stake. It feels like you're giving the men the immediate benefit of the doubt. And
I am. Do you know why? Because we live in America where you're innocent until proven guilty.
All right, but there's a lot of females that have to deal with this on a daily basis in corporate America. We're just a little fish. So we don't have photos like this Al Franken incident where there's a photo.
I understand that there are predators out there, and all I would say is photograph them, record them.
We do. If you go to HR, it happened to me at my job. I went to HR. HR's job is to cover it up.
Well, okay, but look, I can't deal with your case specifically, but you challenged me, and I'm glad you did, because you said I seem to be giving the men a pass, and I am. Why? Because in America, you are innocent until proven guilty. Does that answer that question?
I understand, but
well, what if you were accused of something? Wouldn't you want a trial, if need be, to defend yourself? Of course you would. That's our system of justice. I don't like Anderson Cooper and Wolf Blitzer and the others just destroying people's lives simply because they can. I'm going to send you a copy of God, Faith, and What? If you name the last word, you get it. If you don't, you can't get it. What's the title of my book? God, Faith, and What?
Reason, Dr. Savage.
No, come on. I was just playing with you. It's going out to you for Thanksgiving. That's all. Is there a cop out there in the sex crimes unit who can tell me that if that picture of Al Franken grabbing that woman's breast while she's sleeping is real, and I have no reason to doubt that it's not real because he said he did it. If that's real, is that assault? That's all I want to know. Is there a cop on the line, a sex assault woman or something, someone in that field? Huh? I don't know. We didn't get one of those. 855-400-7282, KLIF, Tommy, line 7. What's on your mind, Tommy?
Mike, I drove a taxi for many years, and I got passengers, males from all over the world, and I can tell you this, that there's a groper in every man that's ever lived. The Bible tells you there's none righteous, no, not one, in Romans, and your answer is in the epistles of Paul. It says that Jesus Christ died on the cross for our sins, was buried, and rose again, and he offers you free pardon for every thought, every deed, everything that you've ever done. We're all guilty.
All right, well, look, I don't want to get into a conversion show today. I mean, God bless you if you're a Christian, but that's not the point of my book nor of the show. You're, as a taxi driver, saying every man's a groper?
That's right.
Every man who gets in a taxi is a groper.
No, at heart, eye rape. It's called eye rape. The Bible says if you even look at a woman and lust after her, you already committed adultery in your heart.
Oh, well, wait a minute. Now you're opening up a can of worms. If we are here with this today, where are we going to be in 5 years? Are women going to be able to say, I know he was undressing me with his eyes. I want him prosecuted for rape? Is that what Gloria Allred will be bringing against people in 5 more years from now? They'll charge you for thought crimes?
Well, I'm just telling you what the Bible says. We're all guilty. I mean, I've looked, and you've looked many times, probably 1,000+ times. You know, I mean.
Well, wait a minute. Isn't that the male thing to look at women? Excuse me.
What's that?
Isn't that the male thing to look at women?
Yeah, that's why we're sinful through and through. That's why we need a blood sacrifice.
Does that make us sinful, or does that make us human?
We're human, and we wind up in hell without Jesus, without his sacrifice.
All right, thanks for the call. Here we go again. Now the migraine came back. I thought I got rid of it with a salad I ate. I'm trying to be good because I knocked down some real dreck last night. I don't know, I ate tongue, and so I figured today I'd counter it with a salad. But that call, that was it. The left hemisphere just went out from it. I got a double banger on it. No, but the next thing is the thought crimes. You know, it's funny, when Bill Clinton was accused of that in the old days, whenever that was, and I asked my mother, God rest her soul, she's been dead 15 years now. She's an older woman at the time, in her 80s, and very, very, very straight. When my father died in 1970, she never dated another man. Never. Not one date. She didn't want, and she had an opportunity. Someone wanted to marry her. She was a nice lady, and she said, I'm not interested. That's it. She married once, and that was the end of it for her. So I said, Ma, what do you think of Bill Clinton? I thought that she'd get irate, you know? You know what she said? They all do it. That was her answer. I don't know who she meant by they all. Did she mean all presidents do it? Or did she mean all men do it? It was like a collective they all do it. I didn't know who the they were. That was her answer. What's your answer? I'll be back to take your calls on the Savage Nation. Be here or go to Barnes & Noble and buy God, Faith, and Reason. The song goes out to Al Franken. He was raised, he can't help himself. He was raised on these kinds of songs. He was truly a romantic. And when he groped that poor woman on an airplane, he was doing it in a romantic way in his mind. I want to know from a sex crimes individual out there, and I'm being kind of as serious as I can, because we're living in mad times, and they're maddening times is what they are. You can hardly keep up with it. Now, actors in pornography films are accusing pornography actors of groping them. I don't understand how that works. I don't understand that. How could a female in a sex flick accuse a man, sex actor, of groping them? I don't quite follow that one. You mean when the camera's on and they're being paid, that's not groping and sexual assault? But if he does it when the lights go out, that is assault? How does this begin and end? Whatever, where it ends, nobody knows. Round and round it goes, and I know what tomorrow will bring, which is thought crimes. Are there any police out there in sex crimes units who can tell me if the picture that is being circulated, I see it on the Drudge Report, I don't know, there are other sites of it, I don't see it anywhere else right now. Al Franken sex accusations, kissed and groped, not funny. The woman is sleeping. He's grabbing her breasts. He's leering. That's him. That's her. Those are his hands. He even admitted it. Is it a crime or not? That's what I want to know. To me, it is. I want to know why he's not out in handcuffs. I want to know why he's not being given a pert march off the floor. KSFO, Abu Line 6, welcome to the program. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi, Michael. Hey, listen, okay, so a little moral teachings from Islam here. In Islam, one thing with the woman is, and most people don't know it, the man is supposed to lower his gaze. When he sees a fine one and he's feeling like that, he's supposed to lower his gaze. The second one is this. Also,
that's all good in theory, but how do you explain ISIS? How do you explain ISIS raping women when they took over a city, all in the name of their Quran? How do you explain that?
His mother.
No, I'm asking you a question. It's nice to say that in theory, Abu, but when ISIS had free reign over young girls in the cities they conquered in Syria and Iraq, they raped young girls around the clock. You know that.
And I understand that. We're not talking about bad people, though. We're talking about someone who understands the moral.
I love this call. I'm glad you're willing to define the differential between a person who actually practices Islam and someone who distorts it in the name of Islam.
Well, yes, some people are knowledgeable and some things are not, just like yourself. But Michael, if you see a fine lady, you're supposed to take that lust that you just had. Now, this guy couldn't wait. Whatever his name is, he couldn't wait. So he had to grope the chick. But what he should have done was, if he felt like groping her, if he has a woman at home, he should have just took that lust, went right home, and groped his wife. And that would have been fine in the world.
But I don't think Al Franken is a Muslim. That's the issue.
Everything else.
Al Franken is a clown, not a Muslim, so he didn't take it out on his wife. Did he even have a wife?
Well, I don't know. I'm shooting in the dark there, but
no, I know. I hear you though. I hear what you're saying. You're supposed to lower your eyes when you see a beautiful woman.
And you should.
Oh,
control your.
Wait, that's a beautiful teaching. I don't know that too many people would follow that today, but it's a beautiful teaching.
I'll give you one more, Michael, not to cut you off. I wanted to say this. Okay, so that's two of them. The third one is this. If you see a woman, Allah gives you one look. He gives you the first one. That's for free. You can have that because he knows man is weak, and he gives us that free will. So that free will is a part of, okay, you see this beautiful woman, you get one look. You look at her once. The second time, that's for shaitan. That's the devil's work right there. And the third...
The second one is a shanda. The first one's a free pass.
Right.
Well, any religion that reins in the evil impulses of man is a good religion to me.
Well, I feel on that, but like we have good and bad and everything, and so...
Yeah, that's right. My mother taught me that, too. When she would see racism and this and that, and, you know, she'd say, don't rush to judgment. She said, there's good and bad in all people. I don't know. As a Muslim, would you read God, Faith, and Reason, or would you find it offensive?
No, I would read it. Of course I'd read it. I would.
Well, because it's based on the Old Testament, and by the way, the Quran is, in many ways, directly cousin-related to the Old Testament. Exactly. You're going to love the quotes. You're going to love the quotes because they're from the old book. Exactly. Thank you for calling, Abu. That's a beautiful call today. No man is an island, let me tell you that. For whom the bell tolls, my friends, that's what we're talking about now. You know, it's almost applicable to what we're seeing now. You think about that one. For whom the bell tolls, a great poem, which almost approaches a religious piece by the great dead white male poet John Donne. Do you know it? He was writing something called Devotions Upon Emergence Occasions, and he said, no man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. What he meant was that although we're individuals, we're also part of a whole, which makes living as individuals possible. And he was saying that the death of any one person diminishes the life of every other, because it diminishes the whole. And that's why his famous poem ends as follows: never send to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. Now, this is no longer taught by the polyps in the U.S. academic establishment. The polyps who have turned academia into a cauldron of left-wing hatred for everything Caucasian, everything European, everything that is great on this earth, created by whites, but now expunged by the polyps who have taken over every aspect of the academy. But what does that have to do with today? No man is an island. Killing the elephant is killing the man. Killing an innocent great creature like an elephant is so heartbreaking, it's unbelievable. And Donald Trump simply has to override the turnaround of this law passed under Obama. Not everything Obama did was bad, and not everything Trump does is good. Do I have to make it that simplistic for you? If you cannot judge things by things and pieces by pieces and legislation by legislation, then you can't judge anything. And I am telling you that overturning this law is so sickening. It is so heartbreaking to believe that in this day and age, the Trump administration would permit the reversal of the ban on the importation of elephant trophies. And most of the ivory goes to China, by the way. You talk about that, oh boy. It is so venal to do a thing like this, and Trump has the power to overturn it. I know by saying this, the next ice cream summit is off. There goes the Hanukkah party. There goes the Thanksgiving, the turkey leg at Mar-a-Lago. There goes the New Year's eggnog. It's all gone, went up in smoke. But I am an independent-minded man. And I think that's why Mr. President doesn't come on the show. I thought about it in great detail. I hear he likes me, tells everyone how much he likes me, because I probably remind them of the people he grew up with who were straight shooters, straight talkers. They told him what they thought. But they're all afraid, the handlers, that if he came on this show, they can't predict where I would go. I'm not as easily controlled, let us say, of those who wield nail guns. If a man wields a nail gun or a hammer, you can pretty much predict where he's going to go, which is where you want him to go. And that's the end of it. It's because, you know, free thinkers are dangerous to all power structures. It's true. I guess that's why I'm not invited anywhere when it comes down to it. But that's the way I want it. I actually like being alone. I get all of my strength from being alone. It's a strange thing to say, isn't it? I don't really get my strength from socialization. I don't know how I got into this, but now I feel loquacious. So the headache is not lifting yet. I got a double from the conversion caller, but no, it's a bad one. It's like probably an acid-base imbalance. I'll have to check it. I got a strip now. I have to see what. No, it's what day of the week is this? Like a frenzy for me. Thursday? I got through Thursday of the week already. Rain, I love it. Oh, I love the rain. Thirsty earth. The thirsty earth is saying, thank you, God. The only one who's not heard from in these torrential rains here in Northern California and the snow in the Sierras is Jerry Brown. He doesn't know it's snowing yet and that the water table is going to fill up real fast. And, of course, Al Gore goes on like the animal, underground. Whenever the rain falls, he's not there. WGDJ Radio in New York, Albany. John, go ahead, please. I want to hear you loud and clear.
Good evening, Dr. Savage.
Hello, infidel.
Calling from New York, but I would have to assume that our laws, as written, are pretty comparable to most states. Certainly the intent of the laws is pretty much going to be the same. So I can give you the New York perspective on this whole thing.
Well, we're talking about Al Franken, the picture of him groping a woman who was asleep on an Air Force transport plane. She's asleep wearing clothing. She's wearing a Kevlar helmet and a flak jacket, but she's asleep in the chair from a 17-hour flight, and there he is groping her breasts. Is that a crime? Is that a sexual abuse crime?
Yes, sir, it is. It's a done deal in New York. We actually have 2 chapters that he would be charged under. The first is specifically sexual abuse in the second degree. That's a misdemeanor in New York, which is absolutely a crime. And that involves the fact that he's subjecting her to intimate sexual contact without her consent. And if you can't tell me that a sleeping woman on an airplane after all she'd been through was probably pretty well unable to give consent at that point. So
to me, isn't that the equivalent of date rape, of giving someone a Ralphie and doing what you want with them? Isn't that a date rape situation?
It simply is. The only difference would be the law does go as far as to go into, penetration or sexual, oral sexual conduct. But this is absolutely touching of intimate parts. Her consent is definitely not present. And that would only be the first. We also have forcible touching in New York, which this really fits. He's groping, grabbing, squeezing a person with the intent to degrade them. And as a veteran, I will tell you, there's nothing more degrading I've seen in a long time than that picture. It's just...
Now, there's more stuff coming out about Al the Clown. Joked about drugging and raping Leslie Stahl. He said, I don't like homosexuals. I was glad when that homosexual got killed. That's come up. And now a second woman says Franken was aggressive and harassing in his calls. Melanie Morgan says, after TV appearance, Al Franken harassed me too. Melanie did that? I know Melanie from KSVO days. That's awful. Melanie Morgan has come forward as well, recounting her own experience with the one-time comedian. Morgan, audition. Okay, well, what about a statute of limitations, John?
In New York State, with it being a misdemeanor, unfortunately, there would only be a 2-year statute. And that statute begins pretty much if the victim's over 18, which I guess at the time of the crime we don't know, but that's pretty well assumed. She would have 2 years to report the incident.
Okay, but let's say she didn't report it within 2 years. That means it's over? He can't be indicted?
In this case, Doctor, it would be. The statute's over. We have unlimited statutes on...
Well, why doesn't the same apply to Roy Moore, for which there is no evidence whatsoever, including photo evidence? There is none. So wouldn't the statute have of course it's gone in wherever, Alabama. There is no... The statute's gone, so they're demanding he step down anyway. So why should we demand that the comedian not step down anyway?
There's no question that if we have enough reason to believe it happened, we have no reason to want to see these people in a position where they should even be close to earning our respect as an entertainer, as a government official. The statute is black and white. It's law. But civilly and certainly consciously, that victim, that trauma will last forever. So,
well, here's the last statement on this. If the Democrats want to have the holy ground here, they have to have Franken step down. If they want to sit here and keep throwing stones at Republicans, I would think they have to have Franken removed from office. Now, thank you. Hold on. I'm sending you God, faith, and reason for calling, sir. But one last thing before the break. Okay. Let's say Franken does step down because the pressure's too great from within his own party. What's going to happen? Well, the governor is a Democrat. He will appoint an even more liberal whack job than Franken, so that's not going to change anything. While with Moore, if they do force him out, they're on the verge or the cusp of bringing in a Democrat, which will be the one vote differential in protecting Trump from an impeachment vote. Do you know that? Did anyone tell that to you yet?
No.
And this is the interesting part here that I think should be thought about very carefully. The Republicans, in attacking Moore, are literally setting the stage for impeaching Donald Trump with that thin one-vote majority. Take that to the bank. Stay on the line. Sending you God, faith, and reason, because I have so much reason today. My headache went away. I'll be right back. You know, I asked the question, where are these accusations going to take us as a society? This is like a grand inquisition. You don't know where it's going to stop. It seems it's hitting left, right. Admittedly, mainly white males of some power, but not solely, obviously. They can't be the only ones guilty of this. Where's it going to end? Maybe it's going to end, as Deborah from WABC is saying on the board, with women being required to wear burqas. I might suit some women to wear burqas. It might be better for us to walk down the street and not have to look at misshapen people wearing exercise pants. I've never seen anything like that in my life. I mean, those yoga pants were not invented for every woman on earth, just as the old muscle shirts when I used to work out as a kid. I was an avid gym goer. I was in pretty good shape, but I wasn't particularly built like Sylvester Stallone. But I still wore a muscle shirt. I'm sure people said, "Was he kidding?" I looked okay, but I wasn't really that well, built up. It's the same with yoga pants. They're not made for every woman. Ladies, trust me. They're not made for you if you're not like whatever. I know I'm not shaming you. It's just that the burqa was invented for you. That is why the burqa was invented, by the way. It was to cover the woman's body so men would not be tempted. And you say, well, that's sexist. Maybe it is. What else is there to live for? And you go to a city. You're going to look like the diesel fumes or a bum? Tell me what's wrong with looking at a beautiful woman going by. Is that sexist? Tell me why that's sexist. I'm an older man. I was raised a certain way. I'm not doing anything. If I see a beautiful woman go by, is that a sexist thing to look at her? I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. Can I not look at a beautiful woman? What is wrong with that? The Chinese poets wrote about it in this way. I look at a passing woman, a passing beauty, as I do a passing cloud. You know what I'm saying? It's a passing cloud. Women are beautiful. And they're supposed to make you feel good when they go by. Aren't you supposed to feel happy that God makes beautiful creatures? Doesn't it give you a hope to go on the next day, that there's something beautiful in the world, instead of this ugly world that we're living in with such crime and hatred and disease? I don't know. I don't know where the heck this is going. Burqas maybe for everyone. And cover the face, too, while you're at it. Cover beautiful faces now. Is that where you want to go? Start with Gloria Allred. I'll raise the money. Heard about Franken. Senator was caught in the act. He's a sitting senator. He's not running for anything. He's there. The woman who claims he did it has a picture of him on an airplane. She's asleep on a military transport coming back from a USO tour. She's asleep and he's grabbing her breasts. Sexual assault. He should be taken out of Congress and arrested right now. You do know that that's sexual assault, don't you? The next step is necrophilia. She said he groped me without my consent while I was asleep, aggressively stuck his tongue in my mouth. I mean, the thought of it alone is enough to make me throw up my breakfast. Now, this is a huge story. And you're going to say, well, wait a minute. Hold on. Slow down, Savage. Wait a minute. You've said over and over again. Didn't you say this, Savage? Didn't you say over and over again, innocent until proven guilty? What kind of conservative convicts without a trial? Well, many of them in the media have convicted more without a trial. There was no evidence whatsoever other than a lousy, stinking, lying lawyer who belongs in prison, in my estimation. Okay, where's the evidence on the Moore thing? When I see the evidence, then I can say what I think. Right now, he's innocent until proven guilty. But when you wake up and you see a picture which you could see anywhere. I mean, I saw it on the Drudge Report where I go every morning. It's no secret. That's where I go every morning. There's Franken groping a woman asleep on a military transport. She's fast asleep. There he is looking like a deviant pervert, smirking as he touches her breasts. Why is he not in handcuffs today? Why are the federal marshals not going and arresting Al Franken for sexual assault? There seems to be no statute of limitations. Really? I mean, you see something. So what's the difference, you say to me, between Moore and Franken? I'll tell you the difference because I have a very logical mind. Okay? We seem to be doing our trials in the public square instead of giving the accused their day in court like we used to do in America. So can we please examine the cases put before us today? Roy Moore has been accused of the sexual assault of a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old and having relationships with other mall teenagers. But what has been presented as evidence in the Roy Moore case? Nothing, other than the testimony of the women accusing him. Shouldn't we examine some more evidence before we claim Moore guilty? If we find clear and convincing evidence Moore did this to young girls, well, okay, he should pay the penalty. But do we have that yet? No, we do not. And yet everyone, including Sean Hannity, jumped on the bandwagon and seemed to have declared him guilty and called him to step down from his candidacy. That's conservative to you? Now Al Franken, accused of sexual misconduct of a woman while on a USO tour. She told her story. But in addition, we see a picture of Franken groping the sleeping woman on a plane with a big grin on his face. He says he was just joking. But clearly he was taking advantage of a sleeping woman. We actually see it. Silence from the Democrats. We have seen a call from Chuck Schumer for an investigation. Way to go, Chuck. The benign story of Al Franken. There he is. The world sees the picture of him touching a woman while she's sleeping on the breasts with a big smirk, looking like the deranged fool he's always been. Only in America could a low-grade comedian become a senator, but in this case, his intelligence level is higher than that of Mitch McConnell in either case. At least he was funny at some point by making a mockery of himself. McConnell has not yet put on a turkey outfit. Maybe he should do so for Thanksgiving. Just let the gullet hang down and go peck around there. To me, this is sexual assault. And there's evidence. With Moore, it's accusation, no evidence. Fake yearbook. Now, the Stallone thing is a little more troubling. He's now 71 years old, and he's being accused of the sexual assault of a 16-year-old while filming a movie in Las Vegas in the 1980s. Another one bites the dust in Hollywood. The question is, where does this end? Who will be next? Will it be you? Who will be left? Who will be next? Everyone is a target, except radical feminists. Have you noticed that? Can you put two and two together yet? Who was behind it all? Have you seen one radical feminist accused of molesting a girl yet? Where does this end? J'accuse was what was done during the French Revolution, and the mob's bray cut the head off. God help us as to where that leads. Now, the Stallone thing is a little more troubling. And when I was reading the Stallone accusations, it's interesting to me. Sylvester Stallone, accused of sexually assaulting 16-year-old fan in the 80s, claim made her give him and his bodyguard some sexual favors. She says he threatened to beat her head in if she told. That's all in the police report, the Las Vegas police report. And I've met Stallone a few times up in Hollywood. I think he's a sweet guy. I don't know if he did this. Police report said he did. But as I was reading the story, I was stunned to see that the bodyguard he used, Mike DeLuca, was an ex-boxer. I read that his bodyguard was killed by police in 2013 at a traffic stop. And being someone who was raised in searching things out, I said, wait a minute, what do you mean he was killed by police? Stallone bodyguard was killed by police. He had no gun. All lives matter is what I wrote. Checked it out, Ventura County Star, September 20th, 2013. I went digging for you. See, my job is to not just report the headlines, but to dig. I'm obsessed with finding the stuff behind the stuff. So Stallone's bodyguard, just as a side note, was shot by police after they had tasered him, which was ineffective. No handgun was found at the scene, said Police Chief Robert Gager. DeLuca, the bodyguard, had no criminal record in Ventura County. There were no witnesses to this. Apparently, he was in his car. He crashed into a palm tree. The police came. They said he threatened them. He had no gun, and they killed him. So, you know, when you hear Black Lives Matter, I think they ought to broaden their concept to all lives matter. And the assassination by anyone by police is troubling in a society such as ours. But that's a side story. I understand it's only a side story. Big story Moore. Big story Franken. Right now, the biggest story is Stallone. I don't know where that one's going to go. I don't know where this ends. What year does it end in? 1961, 1951? Should they disinter some actors? Maybe they should disinter Clark Gable and have a group of mean-faced, clipped-haired women try him and then burn his body like they did during the Inquisition. They could pulverize Clark Gable's bones, or they could dig up Bob Hope. And mean-faced, clipped-haired women could try Bob Hope for sex crimes allegedly committed. And then when he is found guilty, they can burn his corpse and they could powder his bones. Couldn't they? Isn't that what was done during the Inquisition? We are living through a new Inquisition. Where does it end? Round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. Keep feasting, my delightful friends. Keep feasting. Enjoy the flesh. Now we have the serious issue with real evidence of Franken groping a sleeping woman. This is not funny. You do that to a woman sleeping on a bus, you go to jail. You have your head broken and you go right to jail. Am I wrong? I mean, okay, a woman's asleep on a bus, New York City, subway. And you big pervert with your big glasses, you go over and you touch her while she's sleeping. The guys in the subway car probably pummel you, number one, but number two, you're going to jail. I want to know why federal marshals have not gone in and arrested Al Franken and tried him for the sex accusation of kissing and groping this woman. That's what I want to know. Are you telling me that if it was a Republican, this guy wouldn't be in the slammer already with the cuffs on? It is unbelievable what's going on. Who's next? I'm asking you, where does this end? Remember when they went after Bill Cosby? That went on for years and years and years. When they came for Bill Cosby, you didn't speak out because you're not a black comedian. And then when they came for, I don't know the next one, I can't even keep up with it. Who was the next big one to go? I forget already. There was when they came for, wait a minute, when they came for Bill Cosby, you didn't speak out because you weren't a black comedian. Then they went after Harvey Weinstein, who's been forgotten already. He's like in prehistoric history. When they came for Harvey Weinstein, you didn't raise your voice because you're not a Jewish filmmaker, producer. You didn't say anything. When they came for Judge Moore, you didn't raise your voice because he's just a Christian conservative, and you're not a Christian conservative. When they came for Sylvester Stallone, you didn't raise your voice because you're not a rich Hollywood actor. When they came for Al Franken, you didn't raise your voice because you're not a, ex-comedian in the Senate or whatever. And when they came for you, who was left? Who will be left? I mean, where does this end? What's the statute of limitations? The grave? No. Bush, 92 years old, they got him a month ago. His arm fell down on someone's leg. The guy has Parkinson's. He's in a wheelchair. He also. No end to this. You don't know where this is coming from. You can't figure it out yet. You can't put two and two together. Which community in America is behind all of these accusations? You don't see who in the media is most salivating over these accusations against men. You haven't put two and two together yet? Oh, you haven't? Oh, yeah, you can't put two and two together yet. Having said that, let's go back to what we're talking about here, which is Franken versus Moore. Moore is an allegation. No proof, no evidence. Just people saying he did it. I don't know whether he did it. Franken, picture, clear as a bell. You haven't seen the picture yet? You're not going to see it on Wolfie's show. Here in the San Francisco area, the land of complete lies, propaganda, no picture. No picture of Al Franken touching the woman's breasts while she's sleeping. I thought they were great feminists here in San Francisco. Right. Let me read you something from Exodus that I quoted on page 93 of God, Faith, and Reason. We ready for my quote that might work here? By the way, is there anyone listening to the show who can find a biblical quote that works for the times we're living in? Here's one. But if any harm follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. Does that sort of apply? Well, it wouldn't apply. That would mean that a woman can grope Al Franken, and I don't think there's a more disgusting concept than that. Is there a woman listening to the show who'd want to grope Al Franken?
I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Song goes out to Al Franken, all the Democrats out there. So look, turn it off already. I've got time is so short right now. So someone writes me an important message about the difference between Moore and Franken. And she says the difference with Moore's accusations is that they include molestation of children. Franken is accused of sexual assault in groping, while Moore is accused of child abuse. No photo, no proof on Moore. But if he did molest children, that goes beyond molesting a sleeping woman, right? Don't we all agree on that? I do. Right? I mean, that's a great differential. It really is. And now I want to make an appeal to those of you out there who have not yet bought God, Faith, and Reason. If you are holding off to buy it for the holidays, if you're waiting for Black Friday, if you're waiting for Thanksgiving, I rarely do this, but the headwinds are so strong right now. The competition is so great in the bookstores right now that if you're thinking of buying a copy, I'm going to ask you to do so before Sunday. Now, why do I say that? You know, it's like a movie today. A movie has exactly, I think, 1 weekend or 2 weekends to make it, or it's done. A book has exactly 2 weeks to make it, or it's done. Did you know that? That's how ferocious the pressures are today on all titles. And if you want to see the words God, Faith, and Reason circulated in America on office desks or on Thanksgiving tables, or if you want to see it at a Christmas, under a Christmas tree, I'm asking you to buy it before Sunday, because the way the New York Times bestseller list is calculated, it's between when the book is launched, which is always on a Tuesday, which was this week, and this Sunday. That's week one. And that's it. That's all I've got. And the results will be in next Wednesday. Right now, although we are doing well in sales, the competition is so great that it may not make the top 10 in plain English. It cannot be number one because of the headwinds. So many big books came out on the left side. I don't know how we're going to make God into the top 5, but I'm asking you again, if you're going to buy it before Sunday. And if you bought one, I'll make a crazy request. Buy another one for someone in your family. That's all. I never do this. But it is so important to me that the words God, Faith, and Reason circulate as widely as possible. I was supposed to be on 2 different television shows. I'm not going to tell you who they are, because it would be violating a trust. It was on a conservative so-called network. Both hosts wanted me. They were blocked and stymied by someone or some entity at the top. I had bookings for that day. Would have sold 10,000 copies each show. Would have put me into the top 3. Bingo. Someone up there didn't like me, and that's the end of it. Now, it would not have changed my lifestyle one way or the other. I want to be very clear. If this book sold another 100,000 copies, it wouldn't change my lifestyle. I got to tell you right now, I'm at a point of giving money away rather than worrying about making money. I'm glad I can tell you that. I've been blessed. I've worked hard since I'm 5 years old. I could have stopped working a while ago. Not a long while ago, but a while ago. And I may one day wake up and say, that's it, and throw the hat in the ring, and that'll be the end of it. You'll never hear from me again. But I'm still out there. I'm still punching. I'm still fighting. I'm still getting up every morning. And I'm not doing it solely for myself anymore. Is there ego involved? Yes. Was it Paul who said all is vanity? I agree with him. Because while we're alive, all is vanity. When we're dead, there's nothing left to be vain about, is there? We're dust. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. But while I'm alive, I'm still in the ring, and while I'm in the ring, I want to win. And I want you to win, and I want God to win. I want reason to win. I want faith to win. And that's all I'm going to say right now. I think it's good. Now let's go to Susan on KSFO, who will have the last word on the Savage Nation today. Susan, fire away.
Whoa, hi, nice to talk to you. Big burden being the last word after what you've just said. But I was just wanting to comment on all the groping business. I think that, and this may not be a popular view, I think a lot of people, especially men, are evolved to be looking at women and maybe groping at times. And it's partly genetics, and we just have to work with it. And
are you saying that man evolved with an opposing thumb simply to grope women?
No, not the opposable thumb. That's a good.
No, come on. I'm just being sarcastic. Of course not. But the thing is, the opposing thumb is what separates us from other primates. You know that.
Yes, but on the subject of other primates, if you notice, chimpanzees, for example, and having the red bottoms, and
please, ma'am, this is a family show. Please.
Yes, all this.
Okay, I'm just joking. You're such a classy lady. I love you. I'd love to have high tea with you one day, but I'm not into marijuana in liquid form. I'm sending you a copy of God, Faith, and Reason. That's not a bad product idea, high tea. I don't drink this stuff. I don't touch this stuff. I hate marijuana. Did you see the first death of an infant from marijuana? Pay attention. It's toxic. It kills.